I remember that day as if it were yesterday. The September sun bathed the campus in a golden glow, and the trees were just beginning to take on the crimson hues of autumn. I rushed to my first economics lecture when I accidentally bumped into her at the building's entrance. She was truly a vision, slim, delicate, with flowing chestnut hair and clear gray-blue eyes. Emily merely smiled shyly, smoothing down her rumpled skirt, and immediately blushed. "Oh, excuse me, I'm so clumsy. No, I'm the completely inattentive fool." I quickly picked up her scattered notebooks and books from the floor. "Allow me to introduce myself, William, a second-year student." And in that moment, when our eyes met again, it felt like I was struck by a bolt of electricity. In her eyes, I saw such purity and spontaneity that it took my breath away. That's how our story began, with shy smiles in the hallways, bashful conversations at student parties, and coffee after classes. Emily was one of those girls who radiated innocence and tenderness, causing men's hearts to melt at her very appearance. With each new date, each touch, I fell more and more in love with her. She was perfection itself, kind, gentle, caring, ready to listen and support. Yet Emily was well-read, up-to-date on all university events and social life. We could talk for hours on the most varied topics. After graduation, we decided to marry, defying all prejudices. At 23, I became the happiest husband in the world. How quickly everything changed. Sometimes, sitting in my office, I replay over and over again the chain of events that led to the collapse of our paradise with Emily. It all started when I received an offer from a prestigious firm. The first few months in the new position were sheer hell. Endless meetings, piles of reports, overtime, working nights. But I stubbornly climbed my way up, proving I was worthy of this incredible opportunity. At home, Emily patiently created a cozy hearth awaiting me. She supported me, spoke tender words, cooked my favorite dishes after grueling workdays. Her patience and boundless love helped me cope with the stress. However, with each passing month, I grew more and more tired. So tired that coming home in the evening, I would merely slump onto the couch, having no strength even for conversation. Gradually, a wall of silence grew between us. We could no longer find common interests or topics for discussion. It seemed we had lost that deep connection that once nourished our relationship. The endless work drained me like a hungry vampire. I began snapping at Emily over trifles. She gently endured my outbursts of irritability, merely looking at me with pleading eyes. Then Emily, too, began to drift away. We discussed plans for the future less and less. Our conversations dried up, our laughter faded. Our marriage increasingly resembled a quiet graveyard of buried feelings and hopes. With each passing day, Emily became more detached and withdrawn. I was completely absorbed in work, coming home past midnight, exhausted and drained. For Emily, I had almost no time or energy left. Our apartment was filled with a deathly silence. Emily increasingly preferred evenings alone with a book or in the company of her new friends. When I returned, she would merely nod at me with a stony face and slip away into her own world once more. One day a new neighbor knocked on our apartment door. Michael, an attractive young man around 30. He had just moved in next door and wanted to introduce himself. Emily let him in, desperately trying to dispel the joyless atmosphere hanging in the air. They started chatting, and I heard Emily suddenly laugh, for the first time in many months. Her eyes shone with interest, her cheeks flushed with new emotions. It seemed she had come alive again under Michael's gaze. Jealousy began to gnaw at me, a stuffy feeling of possessiveness. However, Emily stubbornly denied anything, assuring me it was just a friendship and I had nothing to worry about. Besides, why would she suddenly cheat after so many years of fidelity? Events took a fateful turn on the night when I returned home earlier than usual. Our bedroom was empty. The silence of the apartment was only broken by muffled voices coming from the bathroom. My heart raced as I stealthily approached the door and risked a glance through the crack. What I saw paralyzed me and turned my whole perception of Emily, of our marriage, of my entire life upside down. There, on the bathroom floor, naked Emily was on her knees, greedily caressing Michael's manhood with her lips. Her hair was disheveled, her cheeks flushed with arousal. Michael had thrown his head back, his neck straining with the pleasure overwhelming him. It seemed time had stopped. The world was upended, everything blurred together. The humiliated sobs of my pride, the wild roar of the offended male, and the disgusting smacking of Emily's lips on her lover's flesh. I didn't care if they heard me or not. Clenching my fists in fury, I turned and stormed out of the house, leaving my shattered marriage behind. The next few days blurred into one meaningless nightmare for me. I was in a daze, mechanically continuing to go to work and returning to my empty apartment. Emily had disappeared, taking most of her belongings with her. Our shared life seemed to have ceased existing, with only a few knickknacks and photographs reminding me of her presence. But the worst thing was not her leaving. The worst was the feeling of endless self-abasement and shame. Emily had betrayed me, spat on all our years of love and fidelity, trampling them into the dust. She had flung herself into the arms of the first man she met and rejected me like an unwanted burden. The wound in my soul was so deep and aching that soon I was gnawed by a thirst for revenge. I dreamed of causing Emily the same pain, of making her taste that same bitter cup of humiliation and suffering. One day, browsing through old files on my computer, I came across several rather risque photos and videos of a naked Emily. We had made these home videos in the first years of our marriage, in a fit of raging passion. Back then, they seemed like a fun game, a light erotic prank between lovers. But now, these files took on a completely different weight and meaning for me. Without a second's hesitation, I mass-uploaded these highly explicit materials to the internet from all my accounts. I supplemented them with additional comments containing Emily's full name and contact information. Within an hour, this hotspot of a sex scandal had spread across the internet, racking up hundreds of thousands of views and comments. Emily, once a prim little hottie, had instantly become the object of porn shaming. The months after the scandal blurred by for me in a haze. I left my old job, moved to another city, all to change the scenery and lick my wounds. Periodically, I would receive links to new waves of discussion and gossip surrounding the Emily case. Her character had been defiled and trampled on the internet, turned into a laughingstock and object of ridicule. Her former friends and relatives turned away from Emily, considering her a fallen woman. Finding a new job with such a scandalous trail behind her was near impossible. Her name had been dragged through the mud. For me, however, it turned out differently. Yes, the first few months were tough. Every sideways glance and whispered remark from those around me burrowed under my skin, stinging and smarting. I was ashamed to look people in the eye, for they all knew of my disgrace. However, over time, this burden grew lighter and lighter. I realized I could now live on, freed from the rotten shackles of my marriage to Emily. Her betrayal, twist it however you like, had opened my eyes and helped me break free from the quagmire of mundanity and self-abasement. After relocating to the new city, I changed my image and started over with a clean slate. I made new friends who knew nothing of my past humiliating scandal. Within a couple of months, I landed a good position at a reputable company. Little by little, my life settled into a new groove. Lively parties with colleagues, nights out at bars and restaurants with new girl acquaintances. It all gave me a sense of freedom and liberation that I had been deprived of in marriage. No longer was I bound by the shackles of routine, endless demands, and the need to constantly be the perfect family man. In my bachelor life, there was no room for reproaches or bending my true nature. Now, looking back, I'm grateful to fate for Emily's betrayal. It woke me up, pulled me out of the quagmire of false complacency and unquestioning existence. The public scandal and divorce became that starting point from which I was able to push off towards a new, true life. As for Emily, after that disgrace, she disappeared from my world. Sometimes rumors would reach me that she had returned to her parents and lived the life of a recluse. But I didn't care. She had chosen her own fate in that moment when she flung herself into Michael's arms. As for me, now I live for myself and deny myself nothing. My former shy doubts are gone, displaced by the bravado and self-confidence of a man who got a second chance to start over. No one and nothing will ever be able to cage me in the confines of daily conventions again. My heart and soul are now open for new adventures and vivid emotions, no matter how wild and unimaginable they may seem to others. For only true freedom brings real happiness.